Folks, welcome to the 2007 Mass Monster Mash. My name is John Horrigan. It's a pleasure to have all of you here tonight. Tonight we have folks like you from 2 different countries, the United States and Canada, and 14 states. All 6 states of New England, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, and as far as California. So why don't you give yourselves a round of applause, California. Now tonight we have a great program in store for you. We've got 4 outstanding speakers. When I wanted to throw this Mass Monster Mash for 2007, I wanted to get the 4 best around, and I did. We're going to be listening to the best author on ghost stories in the United States and the world today. We're going to be listening to the foremost cryptozoologist in the world. We're going to be listening to a bizarre story about a white Bigfoot, and then we'll close it out talking about EVP, electronic voice phenomena. Now, a couple of announcements I'd like to make. I'd like to introduce some folks to you. Last night, here in the Hibernian Hall in Watertown, Mass., we had the Mass UFO Show, our 2nd annual version. And it was a great show. If you missed it, you'll want to come next year. We brought some Canadian investigators, UFO investigators, down from Nova Scotia, and our theme was maritime UFOs, and I would like to acknowledge them right now. First, I'd like to acknowledge a gentleman who is an authority on maritime UFOs. Last night he spoke on black triangles, and he co-authored a book entitled Dark Object from Nova Scotia, Mr. Don Ledger. To Don's left, he opened up the Shag Harbor case in 1993. In fact, he experienced it as a boy. He saw an odd light outside of his apartment window in Dartmouth, Nova Scotia, went down to the shore, and ended up being part of the Shag Harbor incident. He is the lead investigator on said incident, which is just celebrating its 40th anniversary. Co-author, also with Don Ledger, is Chris Stiles, Dark Object. Another gentleman who is a leading authority on water UFOs. He's got a website called waterufo.net. Experienced man who's been in the military. He's been studying this for quite some time. I bring you from waterufo.net from Delaware, Mr. Carl Feint. Also, I want to say hello to Mr. Scott Norman from cryptosafari.com. Scott, if you could please stand up, from California. Wonderful website. We have a bunch of Fordians here tonight, and I'm so glad that you're here. I want to also introduce a man who's got a great radio show. He's a podcaster extraordinaire. His name is Tim Binnall, and his website is binnallofamerica.com. Tim Binnall. Finally, I want to introduce to you a guy that I've worked with for 10 years, one of the most creative artists I've ever had the pleasure to work with. I've recorded 200 television programs with him and a couple of CDs. A good friend of mine, Mr. Steve Russo. Now, Steve produced a CD entitled Mysterious Bridgewater Triangle. And my co-hosts for tonight, I would like to introduce to you first, from a radio program entitled Spooky South Coast, log on to SpookySouthCoast.com. Please welcome Mr. Matt Moniz. Also here tonight, the 2 foremost authorities on said Bridgewater Triangle. They both appear on the CD that they will be selling and signing. I want to bring to you Chris Pittman and Chris Balzano. Now, before we kick off tonight's presentation, I want to chat up the 3 of these gentlemen on the Bridgewater Triangle. It's an anomalous area in southeastern Massachusetts. Our keynote speaker for tonight just happened to dub it, said Bridgewater Triangle, Mr. Lauren Coleman, who's coming up in a little while. And I want to talk to these guys. It's 200 square miles, and the triangle has an apex in Abington, Massachusetts. To the southeast quadrant is over to Freetown, Mass., and then you go to the Rhode Island border, Rehoboth. So Matt Moniz, you've been in there. In fact, you and I did SpookySouthCoast.com. We sat out in Bridgewater. We went to anomalous areas in Bridgewater near Lake Nip, and it's a very odd area. You've been there before. Yes, I have. Steve, turn this mic, please. You've been there before?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and I want to talk to you about Lake Nip and some of the areas, the rocks that you've been to. You've been to Profile Rock, which is an odd rock. Tell me about that.
Profile Rock is a natural feature actually found in Freetown State Forest. It is a profile of what looks to be an Indian. If anybody remembers the old Pontiac Indian, it looks very similar to that. Very sacred to the local Native Americans. Not far from another area in Dighton Rock, which is right around the corner. Number of mysterious inscriptions on this rock, including possibly Norse, Portuguese, and a few other languages that they have yet to really be able to discern. Further on down the road is what Anawan Rock in Rehoboth.
Right, which represents the conclusion of the King Philip's War from 1675 to 1676. Now, Matt, we have Chris Pittman, and Chris has done a lot of investigation on Bigfoot, or weird creature encounters. And Matt Moniz and I went to all the areas that Chris Pittman had told us to go to where there's been anomalous activity, roadrunners and odd creatures. Chris, the biggest Bigfoot encounter that took place in the Bridgewater Triangle, or the most famous one, was in April of 1970 when a police officer, while sitting in his cruiser investigating prowling reports, had the bumper of his cruiser shaken up and down, and he only turned around to see this hairy bipedal entity scoot around the side of a house. You've had a lot of reports on weird creatures.
Yeah, that's right. I get more reports all the time. Reports are constantly coming in about strange creatures in this area. I just got some very interesting leads earlier this week that I'm going to be following up on. Basically, I'll tell the story really quick. A gentleman driving along in the Hockomock Swamp late at night. He sees an object in the road. It was dark colored. He thought that it was possibly a big bag of trash, a big black trash bag that someone had left in the road, and he thought that he was going to have to drag it out of the road. It was a hazard, so he was approaching it very slowly. He couldn't really make out what it was because it was so dark. It was blocking out, it was absorbing all the light. He couldn't see what it was. And when he was only 5 feet away from it, this thing lifted up its head. It had a totally white face, and it stared right into the car. He slammed on the gas, went around it. He was shaking for hours, and this happened some time ago. It was only recently he decided that he wanted to tell somebody about what he had seen because it's so unusual. But I get reports like that all the time.
And Christopher Balzano, MassCrossroads.com, a teacher and great paranormalist, an up-and-coming star. I've had the pleasure of working with Chris so many times now in the last couple of years, and he's been a real big friend to us in the Mass Monster Mash. You're an authority on ghost phenomena, paranormal phenomena, but you've been following something known on Route 44 called the Red-Headed Hitchhiker of Route 44. Could you comment on that, please?
Sure. The Bridgewater Triangle is a great place where classic urban legends and classic myths that people spread in their own towns mix with real ghost stories. And the Red-Headed Hitchhiker of Route 44 is an excellent example of that. Reports started coming in years ago. They were documented in New England Ghost Files, which is a great book if you can find it someplace. And since then, there really haven't been any genuine first-hand sightings. Instead, what we have is this great haunting, which is real because I believe that the person wrote truthfully, and yet all these different urban legends are attached to it. So there's this red-headed hitchhiker who walks down the road, tall man, red shirt, dark pants, work boots, and this person has been known to appear in the backseat of cars, to appear on the side of a window as the car is going 45, 50 miles an hour down the road. People run through him. People pick him up, and he gets into the car and then disappears. And so, this is kind of something where if you're in Rehoboth and you're over the age of 40, you don't want people to come into town and talk about it. But everyone else is dying to tell you their version of the story or something they heard. So it's again, like Chris, it's an ongoing case, but all of the news stories seem to be some kind of a variation of an urban legend. You go to the border of Seekonk and Rehoboth, honk your horn 3 times, and he appears in your headlights. Stories like that. So it's a great, like many things in the Bridgewater Triangle, it's a great convergence of legend and true hauntings.
And it dovetails nicely into my shameless plug for said CD, if you could hold that up. They'll be selling it over there. Stop by. And also, folks, we encourage you to stop by all of our vendor tables. Don and Chris and Carl have material for sale here. Don Keating has material for sale here, as does Jeff Belanger. We have concessions. My wife, Jenny. First of all, I want to stop there. Jenny has done all the decorations here. She is the backbone to this organization. My wife puts up with me. You're the best, Jen. Thank you to Steve's wife, Anna Russo, for working in administration again. And we also want to talk about Mike. Mike is over there with BigfootSurplus.com. Mike, say hello. He's got a bunch of Bigfoot paraphernalia. And stop by Lauren Coleman's amazing table. He's got some wonderful, wonderful books for sale as well. So without further ado, I want to tell you finally about the raffle. We've got a lot of raffle items. I'm not going to bore you with them, but they're back there. One of the items is a 5 Super Bowl autographed football by the New England Patriots. Also, we have a pennant signed by 5 different Super Bowls representative of the New England Patriots. And we have a Red Sox autographed cap and also a MASH, of course I was going to do that, autographed photo. So stop by, help us out. That helps support us, and we're going to be coming back in 2008. Yes, sir. Oh, finally. Oh, great. Okay. Finally, I didn't even see it. From the Sci-Fi Channel program Ghost Hunters, folks, you've heard about that. She's from the Atlantic Paranormal Society, TAPS. She's also one of the few investigators who does one-on-one instruction and teaches folks about how to investigate hauntings. I'd like to say hello to Ms. Kristen Gartland. Thank you, Matt. I didn't even see she snuck in.